Good morning, CUT. How are you? That's the Christ Universal Temple Ensemble. Those are the temple musicians. Mr. Martin Woods, coolest conductor on the planet, God bless you. Mr. Monte Phelan, the musical director. God is so good. God is so good. So just one of the things that I love about this ministry is that it is what I call a full service ministry. Like where can you go and be at church and just at a moment's notice be transformed from church to the Chicago Symphony Orchestra? You can't get that every place. You can't just order that on demand. Right? And so Tiara and Tasia, they just took us right to the heart of Chicago Symphony Orchestra right here on the platform at Christ Universal Temple. Stand up, let us love you. Fantastic, great job. Their grandmother, Miss Tekla Sayers. We see some great things in store for you. We touch and agree on that. God has blessed both of you abundantly. Just keep working, right? Keep working. Keep praying and keep working. And then the champ, we get to meet the champ. The champ is here. The champ comes out with his team and the people in his corner, and the champ Chester reminds us that we are the greatest. The champ gave us a litany of affirmations that we can take with us and begin to, from this very moment forth, begin to work those affirmations in our lives as reminders of all that we are. And then the temple ensemble, my Lord and my God, they bring you back to church to make sure that you know that for certain you are in the midst of the Spirit of God. And so I feel God just moving all through this place and expressing through that song. Thank you, God, for working through your channel. It's called the Christ Universal Temple. Now, musicians, it's a full service experience. You can't get this any place. I've been a lot of places. I've seen a lot of things. So have you, right? You're like, so have I. But you just can't get this anyplace. Under the direction and leadership of Monte Phelan and Martin Woods, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. And so now I have to try and see if I can match where everybody else has been. You know, it'd be kind of whack if when it's time for the word to come forth, I'm not up to the task, and so now I got to stretch. Relay race, and they just pass the baton on, and so we keep it moving. And so we are continuing in this series, Guidelines for a Master. And on today, we talk about and teach about and learn about another of the tools. It's a practice. Repeat after me. It's a practice, yet it's also a tool. So the tool that we are teaching about and looking at today and getting a fuller, clearer understanding of today is this idea of affirmative prayer. Affirmative prayer. Repeat after me. There is power in affirmative prayer. As people who live busy lives, we live so much of our lives plugged in, right? We live so much of our lives plugged in. And it doesn't matter if you're plugged into your career or plugged into your goals or plugged into your social media page or plugged in to your relationships. We just spend so much time plugged in. And if we're not careful, if we're not mindful, and if we're not intentional, we can spend so much time plugged in that we can begin to believe that the things that we are plugged into are actually the source. Right? We do understand that at our homes, when we get a nice new lamp and we plug it into the receptacle, and the assumption is that that receptacle will be a channel through which the source of electricity can flow and give us light in the space that we're in. It's no different, say it's no different. It's no different in our respective walk. Those things that we plug into, we begin to expect that those things will be the source for whatever it is we tend to get from the thing that we're plugged into. And so what affirmative prayer gives us an opportunity to do is it gives us an opportunity to resource the source. Affirmative prayer brings us back to the realization that we must spend some conscious, intentional, strategic, practical, committed time with God. I remember when my daughter was home for summer one year, home from school one summer. Sylvia and I doing our prayer work, and shortly thereafter, she said, I think we should buy some new tires and new brakes for this girl's car. She said she needs some new tires and new brakes. And I said, well, I already put money on the car. This is the human him. The human me says, I already put money on the car, Henry. And if I buy the car, somebody else ought to be able to buy the tires. Because when I bought the car had good tires. And when you run up and down the road, you tend to wear and tear on the tires, particularly in this case, the ones that I already bought. Sylvia says, no, in my soul, I think we need to get this girl some new tires and some new brakes. And so I am one who lives by the age-old maxim, happy wife, happy life. And so I acquiesce and with a break loose of my alligator arm tendency, and I dig deep and I go to the well and get the money for the tires and the brakes. And as experience would have it, 2 days later, this young lady is driving quickly as she is wont to do through an intersection, and at the intersection, her car meets another car, almost head on. And the impact of the crash is such that the police officers are really looking for there to be some fatalities from this impact. But because someone was in tune with the power of prayer and heard the Lord say, do thus and so, because we acted on what we heard and got brakes and tires, those new brakes and those new tires, I do believe played a major part in saving the life of this young girl that we love so much. Remember that? Is that a true story? And so I say that to say to my young people, young people, I saw you standing up all over the room, to my young people, while this is a lesson for those of us who have a mind to be open to it. I want you to remember that even when you are not praying, somebody is praying for you. There are some things that it seems like it should happen to you, but because somebody is holding up the hour of prayer for you, things tend to work out for you in ways that you're not even aware of. So let the people continue to pray for you, but get it for yourself so that you can also be a part of averting those things that could lead to disaster, but through the power of prayer, they wind up working out in your favor. Reverend McDowell said on Friday night at the lead into our 60th Jubilee anniversary, and if you missed it, you missed it. When speaking about prayer, he reminded us that prayer is communion between God and man. He reminded us that this communion takes place in the innermost part of our being. And we understand that prayer is communion. It's a relationship. It's a unity. It's a closeness with God. We recognize that prayer is a conscious communication with God. It's a consistent time set aside to get yourself in order. It's your time to unplug so that you can replug and then resource the source. Prayer gives us the opportunity to place our attention on God, and when we place our attention on God, this then opens up the flow of God's good. Prayer is one of the ways by which we claim, say claim. Prayer is one of the ways by which we claim that which is already waiting for us at the hand of God. Jesus says it this way: the kingdom of God is at hand. And so prayer gives us the ability to claim what is already ours. I love being at the airport and seeing people standing at the conveyor belts waiting for their luggage to come. Like, this is one of the most confident groups of people on the planet. You ever seen people at the airport waiting for their luggage? Like, this is a confident, resolute group of people. They know that their good ought to be coming through whatever the means of transportation was. See, the person standing by the conveyor belt, they don't care if the bag had to go from Chicago to Philadelphia to Mexico, then to Canada, and from Canada back to South America, and then back to wherever they are. They don't care. All they know is that their luggage ought to be where they are. And I submit to you that prayer gives us the same ability to expect in a resolute way that our good ought to show up off the conveyor belt of life, waiting for us to pick it up and roll along with it. People who know what belongs to them have an expectation. And prayer then helps us get into alignment with the right and proper expectation. When you make a claim, as prayer does, it gives us the ability to shift our consciousness. When you make a claim, see, but sometimes we claim things that we don't really want. And then other times we have a tendency to ask for and expect only what we feel like we're worth. And then sometimes we even take that sense of worthlessness into prayer. And then we say that every thought is a prayer. But I'm sure we would all admit that not every thought, nor every feeling, nor every action is a true indication of what we desire. And so if we then are thinking and feeling and behaving in ways that are inconsistent with what we say we want, then we have to help evolve our prayer life. Say, evolve our prayer life. And so what I want to invite you to do along with me for the next 31 days, beginning tomorrow, is to put into practice this opportunity and this tool called affirmative prayer. From your bulletin, read it along with me. It says that affirmative prayer is the spiritual activity in which we enter into conscious remembrance of oneness. Affirmative prayer is the spiritual activity in which we enter into conscious remembrance of oneness. Now, this is good. First, let's work with this notion of spiritual activity. Because I submit to you that most of what we're plugged into has nothing to do with our spirituality. Most of what we are sourcing and accessing has very little to do with our spiritual makeup, but has as the same amount of impact as the Spirit does in your soul consciousness. Are you still with me? And so what we then must be conscious and intentional about doing is resourcing the source and then allowing the source to guide and direct our soul. The proverb said it this way: trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge God, take some time for God, get to know God, and in all your ways God will direct your path. You don't have to try to figure it out if the mind of God will give you the answer. We say affirmative prayer is a spiritual activity. And the beautiful thing about spiritual activities is they help to expand soul consciousness. See, whatever you source will feed your soul. Whatever you source, Mike, will feed your soul. See, your soul wants you to consume the right thing. But it's not until it starts to break down that you can change your mind and resource the source. Spiritual activity helps to edify and purify and cleanse the soul consciousness. And when we get in alignment with the spiritual activity, then that brings us into this word. It says remembrance. Does your sheet say remembrance? It brings us into a conscious remembrance. It brings us into a conscious remembrance. Now, that would have went right by me, except I believe somewhere, sometime, we say that the primary cause of suffering, I ain't heard enough people say that. We say that the primary cause of suffering is forgetfulness. So then, if we just walk through it logically, if the primary cause of suffering is, then the primary cause of health is. If the primary cause of suffering is, then the primary cause of abundance and prosperity is. If the primary cause that's breaking down the health in your relationships is suffering, or is the primary cause of suffering is, see, y'all moving too slow. Y'all messing me up. Move quicker, move quicker, move quicker. If the primary cause of suffering is, then the primary cause of health in your relationship is. See, if you will commit yourself to remembering, you can experience less suffering. Repeat after me. If I commit myself to remembering, I will experience less suffering. Make some noise if you are down for suffering less. So then affirmative prayer gives us the ability to remember. It brings us back to remembrance. It brings you back to the remembrance of who you are and whose you are. That's what it does. It helps us get back on task with the truth about ourselves. Suffering because you don't remember who you are? Soul amnesia? This affirmative prayer is both an activity of the head and the heart. It's an activity of the head and the heart. Affirmative prayer works on both the thinking and feeling level. Are you with me? This prayer, this affirmative prayer, please get this. This affirmative prayer is not about your ability to impress God. Let me let you in on a little information. There is nothing that you can think, say, or do that the omniscient God will be surprised by. So it doesn't make a difference how flowery your language is in prayer, nor does it matter how long you pray, nor does it matter how profound the words that you use when prayer. None of those things have even the remotest ability to change God. They only impress you. Now, what you impress, you express. And stay with me. If your thoughts are prayers, and your prayer gives an indication of your attention of the claim of what you are wanting, then you are impressing the universal awareness to say to everything that is a creative capacity within you, you're saying, bring me more of this experience. See, this is why you're never praying to change other people. These people only show up to help us grow. The experiences show up to help us grow. Your challenge is never for somebody else, which is also why you don't have any time to be concerned with what anybody else is doing. Because the time that you're spending on them, you are not affirming yourself. Prayer raises us up to the level where we realize who we are, and what we have. On a real, true level, affirmative prayer is not so much about the goodies we get. Say goodies we get. It's not about the goodies we get as much as it is about realizing the goodness that we are. And so it's about helping us align with our oneness so that we can then begin to live out of this awareness of our oneness. I got to park right there, because if you begin to live out of your awareness with oneness and you stop thinking that there is a two-ness, then we remember and realize that which we desire to have in our life, world, and affairs, we are already one with. Like, I imagine that nobody here who drove, raise your hand if you drove to church today. Drove your car. Drove your car. Keep them up. So those of you who drove, I'm imagining there is no discontent in your soul right now about where your car will be when church is over. You do recognize that the keys in your pocket make you one with your car that's in the parking lot. But recognize too that your car is not physically present with you in this moment. The symbol is with you, but the actual physical thing is not. The symbol is the oneness of the realization of that which is yours in consciousness and now in demonstration. But when we do recognize that because we are creative beings with creative capacity, when you get the image of the thing in your soul, you are already one with that thing. It's this sense of two-ness that keeps us from attracting our oneness. And so we don't worry about the things that have already shown up. But the truth is, once your soul starts to shape it, it is already on its way to showing up. Let's move to this next point. Let's keep going. Affirmative prayer, take it with me. Affirmative prayer is praying from the consciousness of oneness, knowing, realizing, claiming, and declaring what is already true. What is already true. What is already true. And so you desire health. Health is already true. You desire more money to meet the end of the month. More money to meet the end of the month is already true. You desire college tuition or college scholarships, and college tuition and scholarships are already true. Somebody's already getting those things. Somebody's already getting it. Somebody's businesses is already doing $5 billion a year. Somebody's household is already bringing in $20 million a year. Somebody's doctor is already saying, what I used to see, I don't see no more. See, it's already happening. And because you are one with the one, if it's happening abundantly in one place, it's happening abundantly every place. Because the oneness is everywhere. Are you with me? And so then we begin to develop these spiritual qualities. Spiritual qualities. Say spiritual qualities. See, spiritual beings have to be willing to leverage their spiritual qualities. Qualities like patience. You wasn't waiting for that one right out the gate, were you? Give me another one, Rev. You got another one. I got another one. Spiritual qualities like kindness. Spiritual qualities like generosity. Spiritual qualities like humility. This affirmative prayer, this activity of the soul helps you develop those qualities. And when you develop them in yourself, you will be more patient with those who don't exhibit them in their experiences. Are you still with me? So let's get now into the 5-step prayer process. The 5-step prayer process. Now let me just add right here that you can pray any kind of way. And I would submit that there is no one way, there is no only way, there is no true way. As a matter of fact, what you should hearken to are the times where you have prayed a particular way and then something moved. That's a good means for you by which to pray. But I want you to have this tool, and I want us to work with this tool for the next 31 days. Here's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to, starting tomorrow, August 1st, to take 1 minute tomorrow. To take 1 minute and to work each of these steps in that 1 minute tomorrow. On August 2nd, I'm asking you to add another minute to your affirmative prayer time. On August 3rd, I want you to add another minute to your affirmative prayer time. On August 4th, I want you to add a 4th minute to your affirmative prayer time. Like you, I am beginning on tomorrow to, for a single minute, work these 5 steps in my affirmative prayer time. Are you with me? So then, from your bulletin, it says the first step is the step of what? In order to, read it with me, in order to physically and mentally prepare for the experience of resting in the silence, we need to consciously relax ourselves and release all tension, physical and mental. Right? So before you can really truly prepare for the silence, you have to get your soul ready. You have to get your soul ready. Sometimes entering into prayer is akin to what they say when how you enter into a relationship. The way it started will be an indication of the way it ends. And so if in our prayer time, we come with all of this, whatever it is, we can come with the awareness that prayer is transformational. So I'm not saying that you can't come with that. You with me? I'm saying that this prayer approach requires something different of you. Are you with me? So the affirmative prayer process requires you to begin to relax as the first step. Now, what do I mean when I say relax? I mean to let your thinking and your feeling, let your thoughts and your emotions be free of the things that might have been bothering you or might have even encouraged you on the way into the prayer process. I'm saying relax. Here are some methods by which you might come to relax. Take a deep breath. That's not rhetorical. I'm telling you right now, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, another deep breath. Take another deep breath. Do you feel yourself start to slow down? Did you sense how this room just transformed? Just in that moment. Now what happens is that if that's happening in your kitchen, where because you relax, the things around you relax. Now sometimes when you relax on the thinking and emotional side, this releasing will require you to do some forgiving. Scripture is really a specific in those moments where people come to bring their gift or get something to God or have some quiet time. Scripture is really intentional about saying to those people, before you come here, take care of your business that exists out there. When Elijah was running for his life from Jezebel, and he was seeking some solace and trying to find God, the scripture tells us that he found himself resting under the broom tree. And I like this idea of the broom tree, ladies and gentlemen, because the characteristics of a broom tree remind me of what we are to do when we come into affirmative prayer. See, the broom tree, when it starts to get hot, the roots of the broom tree go deeper. When it starts to get intense, the characteristics of a broom tree help it center at its base and then start to go deeper to the source. Repeat after me, you have to resource the source. And so what relaxation does is it gives us the ability to settle into the silence. When Elijah was searching for God, the scripture says that there was at first a great wind. Elijah was hoping that God would be in the wind. Then it said that it was an earthquake. Stuff around him started to move. Then it said that was a fire. But in none of these things was God to be found. It was only after he relaxed himself, he chilled out, he was cool, and it was only after he came completely apart from his issues that he was able to hear God in the whispering of the still small voice. So you want to relax because sometimes God is not going to scream at you in order for you to get your blessing. And so relaxation gives us the ability to not only calm our souls, but calm our environment. Step one, relax. Let it go. Forgive. If there are things and people that you need to forgive before you start to pray, do your forgiveness work. If you don't remember how to forgive, go get the very first tape of this lesson series on forgiveness and get to work before you get to work. Are you with me? The second step says what? And it says that concentration, or take it with me, come on. Concentrated attention is the gentle focusing of the mind on a particular statement. Concentrated attention is the gentle focusing of the mind on a particular statement or thought of truth. When we are now beginning to concentrate on an aspect or truth of God, here is what I want to encourage you to do. Understand how that truth relates to the desire you would like to demonstrate. Understand how the truth that you are going to focus on relates to the desire you want to demonstrate. Do you understand what I'm saying? Are you with me? No? If you desire health, if you desire peace, if you desire prosperity, and on day 2, the aspect of truth that you are going to focus on is God as love, understand how love as a magnetizing power helps you have the ability to attract into your life more peace. Understand God as love demonstrates and manifests itself as peace. Understand that the prosperity you desire can be attracted to you by the love that is in your own soul. And so even in your concentrated effort, as you are thinking on this idea of love, because you have the power of imagination, see yourself sending love out from you and then going to the very thing that you desire, and see your love being used to magnetize that thing and pull it to you, just like a magnet pulls iron filings from the environment and attracts it to the thing. Does that make sense? We see Paul saying it this way. He says, finally, beloved, when it's time to concentrate, when it's time to focus, see, this is now where you have to get clear. For many of us, when we go into prayer, we start to think about all of the ancillary things. Who's picking the kids up from soccer? Did I get some gas for the car? Still got to pay the water bill. What am I wearing to work tomorrow? Am I cooking or are we eating out? I got to take the dog to the groomer. I hope he don't call me tonight. Or for some of us, I hope he called me tonight. Pick your flavor. Pick your flavor. But all of these things vie for our creative attention. All of these things vie for our creative concentration. See, the things in your soul know that you have the ability to make those things manifest. And so all of them want to live, and so they seek your concentrated attention so that they might come into manifestation. Remember, we said thoughts have the ability to produce themselves once they have been thought, but they require your focused attention to help bring them into manifestation. So the stuff that's around you, the stuff that passes through your mind, some of that stuff is seeking to live, and you ought to say to some of it, you just go ahead and die. We having your funeral today. You will not live in my space. Do you understand what I'm saying? In Philippians, Paul says it to the church this way: whatsoever things are honorable, just, pure, pleasurable, commendable, if there's anything excellent in them, if there's anything praiseworthy in them, think on these things. But sometimes we just think on senseless stuff. Using creative energy, creative capacity, using imaginative faculties to think about stuff that does not matter. Thinking about stuff that don't have nothing to do with you. Thinking about stuff that does not feed you. It might tickle you. It might excite you, but it's not helping you get better. Thinking about stuff that's a waste of time. Don't do that to yourself. Put your concentrated, focused, God-given intensity on the things that you will desire. And just like in the creative process, when you say live, it will come to life. See, God does not have time to think about the mundane. You know how I know? Look at the person in the seat next to you. That is an exquisite, well thought out manifestation of the divine. Look at them. Look at the people around you. Look at how much accomplishment is around you. I know you don't know all of them. That's beside the point. That's beside the point. See, we get caught in the details. I don't know what they done. You don't have to know. That's when you start majoring in minors. The third step is meditation. Let's take it together. To meditate is to open yourself to the inspiration of your indwelling Lord, and then to listen for its inspiration. To meditate is to open yourself to the inspiration of your indwelling Lord, or your indwelling law, the mind, the law of mind action, and then to listen for its inspiration. I like to say that if you can worry, you can meditate. Those of us who are well-practiced worriers, the worry warriors, do remember that we are meditating on the thing that we don't want. And then we're surprised when that thing visits upon us. But then, because there is grace, sometimes we worry. And we worry, and we worry, and we worry, and we worry. And the thing does not come to pass. So that's a whole lot of creative capacity, putting your body through so much turmoil. And the thing you were worried about worked itself out. So I don't know who sings it, but she says, why are you trying to figure it out? God has already worked it out. When we meditate, this is what you're doing. When you meditate, you open yourself to the inspiration of the indwelling Lord, and then you listen. So you want to know how to do what it is you're trying to do? Let the omniscience of God direct you. See, omniscience has already determined that when the thing is wrong, omniscience says no. And when the time is wrong, omniscience says slow. And when we are wrong, omniscience says grow. But when the thing is right and the time is right and we are right, omniscience says go. So sometimes it's not happening for you because you just ain't ready. There's a such thing as not being ready. So the third step is meditate. The fourth step is realization. Realization, it says, is an effect of having been in the silence. We say realization occurs when our thinking and our feeling come together. Yes? And so it's in this realization where, as Rocco Errico would say, that we set the trap. In the way that we think and the way that we feel, we set the trap for the thing that we desire. And the trap, understands, also requires us to have some focus and some inclination toward the thing that we desire. I also like how Eric Butterworth says it. He says that when we have the realization, it is ourselves judging ourselves to be wondrously made and worthy of the thing that we desire. So you have to think and feel in alignment with that which you desire. Realization, thinking, feeling. In your affirmative prayer time, think in alignment with the desire. Think in alignment with the realization of oneness. Feel in alignment with the desire. Feel in alignment with the realization of oneness. How does it feel when you got it going on like you want to have it going on? And then finally, give thanks. Give thanks. Give thanks. Don't wait for it to show up. Give thanks. Don't wait for it to show up. Give thanks. Remember that you are already one with it. Don't wait for it to show up before you decide that you can give thanks. When you have gone through this process, give thanks for the thing that you desire. Because as sure as you are made in the image and likeness of God, your consciousness will not be mocked. And if you have the soul for it, it must manifest itself. Give thanks for the good desires of your heart. Count it all joy, because it's all working for your good. God bless you.